state, basically 13 courthouses to review affordable housing plans. And it basically said those courts could hear petitions from municipalities for certification of their housing plans, what COAH was charged to do, which was to approve and certify plans. And what municipalities basically could do is that they could file what's referred to as a declaratory judgment action, or what we affectionately call DJ action, with the trial court, seeking to declare their housing element and fair share plan as being constitutionally compliant, and to further seek protection from the court from future builders' remedy lawsuits. And what basically has happened since that time, and is still happening as we speak in some municipalities, and I'll get to what Morris Township did, but it creates essentially a negotiation process. And that negotiation process involves, obviously, the municipality, in this case, Morris Township. It involves the Fair Share Housing Center. The Fair Share Housing Center is a housing advocacy group in New Jersey that was a party to the Supreme Court suit from March of 2015. And it also involves something called interveners. And interveners are developers and landowners who basically had sites that they were offering to provide for affordable housing, typically through inclusionary development, in other words, that 4-to-1 development, and they were allowed by the courts, provided they met at a certain time deadline, to intervene in the DJ process. So you had all these parties before a judge. And to make things even more complicated, the judge basically appointed its own expert, known as a special master. And that special master's role was basically to attempt to mediate the process between the township, the interveners, and Fair Share Housing with regard to compliance with third round obligation. The Fair Share Housing Center basically was in a very, very strong position in these negotiations, and still is in any municipality where basically the township or borough is looking to further an affordable housing plan. They were effectively emboldened by the Supreme Court in the March 2015 decision, and they basically sit at the table during all the settlement negotiations, and they appear in court and basically have a strong seat at the table, if not the driver's seat at the table in this DJ action. And quite frankly, it's been our experience with a number of different municipalities in the state that basically, if Fair Share doesn't sign off on a settlement agreement, there is no settlement agreement. They have that much power in this particular process. Fair Share could also, if a settlement wasn't reached, ask the court to move forward with a trial, and basically also ask the court to go so far as to take away a municipality's immunity from a builder's remedies lawsuit. And that immunity was put in place basically once that DJ action was filed. It allowed protection, if not temporary protection, until basically the court process was finalized. So in the cases where a settlement was reached, and in Morris Township we reached a settlement, what happens next is there's something called a fairness hearing before the court, and the same parties appear, and the court basically at the fairness hearings makes a preliminary judgment as to whether the municipality's plan actually does provide this realistic opportunity to basically promote what's referred to as the protected class. Protected class here is low and moderate income households. And then after the fairness hearing, the court usually gives the town 120 days to basically adopt a housing element and fair share plan, and implementing zoning if that's part of the plan. After that, there's a final compliance hearing where all these documents would have been in place and adopted and reviewed again by all these parties I mentioned. And if everybody is on board and the court agrees, the court will then ultimately give what's called the judgment of compliance or repose, which would give a municipality, again, protection from builder's remedy suits through the year 2025. So let me explain what happened in Morris Township.